Most people don't quit coding because it's hard. They quit because, do you ever feel that struggle? The struggle of wanting to code and stay consistent with this goal and to stand out in this super competitive field, but time in and time out, you consistently feel beaten, you feel overstimulated and underperforming, and overall, you just want to quit. That's kind of where this video is going to help you. Today, I'm going to talk about how to learn how to code, but not only just how to learn to code, but how to stay consistent with your goals. I have a laundry list of different tips for you today, with a whole bunch of resources that I'll link down in the comment section below. So I highly recommend checking that out. Thank you again so much for watching. Be sure to like and subscribe. Let's get into it. All right, so I have class to go to, but then right after that, I'll find a little study area and I'll kind of go over some of my different tips that I have for you. All right, so the first thing that I have is to stop learning passively. This pretty much means stop watching tutorials on YouTube, which is kind of harsh, but genuinely it's the truth. And some people may genuinely feel called out by this. Good, as you should. When you scroll on YouTube and you're watching hours and hours, full course tutorial, 18-hour course, 30-hour course, 3-hour course, 1 hour. At the end of the day, these are distractions pretty much. You're procrastinating and you're kind of pushing off your actual time to learn. It's really easy to fall into this cycle, which is why so many people do it, especially because it's really easy to kind of copy and paste code, essentially, where you're watching somebody else's screen and doing the exact thing that they're doing and feeling accomplished because you're doing the same thing too, when in all actuality you're not really coding completely. You know, it's a good starting basis, but you need to create a project by yourself or with a team, and you need to build your portfolio and your skills by yourself. So the first thing, and this is genuinely one of the most important ones, to stop being in this passive state of watching people, reading MDN documentations and scrolling through different GitHub repos where you're learning how to code and all this thing. Like, no, you genuinely need to get out there and get your feet wet doing your own work. Don't get me wrong, learning is very integral. You need to kind of learn the stuff, but coding is a skill that needs practice more than visuals. A quick little tip that I have for that is to switch from watching videos to build as you learn. Switching to programs like the Odin Project, Free Code Camp, Code Academy, these are things that can help you learn to code by you practicing. Another one that I really like right now is Scrimba, but they teach you the lessons and you're actually coding the projects, and I find that much better than you just watching a lecture online. The next thing that I have is that you should build before you're ready. Now, this is a pretty generalized thing that everybody kind of goes through, and it tabs a lot into what I said earlier, but this pretty much means you need to stop worrying about what you don't know and just do it. When you jump into a project with just the designs of it, you are able to learn how to learn, and that is one of the biggest skills that will set you apart as a software engineer in the modern day. Now, I don't want to get too technical here, but overall, by learning to learn, by just getting your feet wet, just starting, making your own project, that's what's really going to set you up for success. It's okay to build with gaps in your knowledge, not knowing 100% of what you're trying to do when you get started. That's genuinely one of the best ways to get started, because if you don't know exactly what you're doing, you can learn. So starting without fully knowing something is okay and completely understandable, and actually highly encouraged in this field. Most people are hired not knowing a lot of the different technologies that they will need in the job. That's kind of what your internships come in, but I'll delve into that a little bit later. But overall, by wanting to understand everything, you are killing your motivation, which ultimately will kill your discipline in the long run. So overall, by just starting, by just going out there, you're able to set yourself up for the highly competitive industry, and two, you're able to kind of break that tutorial loop where you're consistently trying to train yourself and grow your knowledge without actually implementing any of those skills that you've learned. The next thing that I have is that you should make your work visible. Now, you can do this in a plethora of different ways. The number one way that I would say is posting on a GitHub repo, pushing it to GitHub. That way you're able to kind of, one, push it to show consistency within the GitHub program, but also where you can get feedback from other people. This kind of ties hand in hand with the idea of taking criticism well. You don't have to push out your best work, and that's kind of the beauty of it. People in the tech industry want to help. They want to see you grow. People are really kind a lot of the times, and they want to kind of fix your program or break your program and see what's wrong sometimes. So by posting your content to GitHub, by tracking progress through like a Notion progress log, by doing like a public challenge or a hackathon or something, this is something where you're able to kind of show your progress, show your work, show the skills that you've learned and developed for your future portfolio. The next thing that I have is to build a system. Now this ties into the entire notion that motivation does not last long term, which is the truth. Discipline is what's really going to help you. So by staying disciplined and by developing a system to kind of back you up, that's what's really going to help you stay consistent with your goal of learning to code. A simple system could be fixing a time within your day where you are solely going to code and you're not going to do anything else. That could be literally like 15 to 30 minutes. Adding this system into your daily routine, you are able to stay locked in and stay consistent with your overall goal to learn how to code. This could literally be coding for 10 to 15 minutes every day from like 5:45 to 6. That is honestly what's going to help you stay consistent long term, rather than I'm going to code some here, code some there. By adding a system into your daily life or weekly routine, that's how you're going to stay consistent. That's how you're going to stay disciplined with this skill, not just kind of move in waves, which is something that a lot of people do. All right, quick little brain break, but if you want a free template for learning how to stay on top of your habits, you can comment down brain in the comment section below, and I will personally send you a free template that I create and that I use on Notion. I absolutely love Notion. That is my baby. If you watch any of my other videos, you will know that I mention that platform every single day, and I'm not even sponsored or an ambassador or anything of that sort. I just love their products. So comment down brain, get a free Notion template. Thank you again so much for watching. All right, the next thing that I have is to learn in sprints. Now this kind of ties in with the anti-passive learning step that I had, but it's kind of its own thing in itself as well. What I mean when I say learn in sprints is to learn different skills, different technologies in a certain period of time. It's really easy to get bored with something quickly, especially after like 2 to 3 months of learning it. Like after so long, you kind of know most of the implementations of the language or the technology. So by switching it up, or learning something that's actively getting built still, like AI or something, that's what's really going to kind of set you, one, apart in the hiring market, and two, it helps you kind of slow down and switch topics into something that matters more to you, especially in the like quickly growing and super competitive tech industry. By learning different things in shorter periods of time, while yes, you're not 100% mastering something, you are making yourself a better asset, which is genuinely so important, especially because the large amounts of layoffs that are happening. By making yourself more of an asset, something like a sponge where you're learning information constantly, that's what's really going to help you stand out. And it's also just going to make your projects a bit more cool. It's cool that once you learn JavaScript, you immediately start learning React a couple weeks later. That's something that will help you stand out in the hiring market, and that's something that will also help you stay consistent and avoid burnout, really, because when you're learning the same thing over and over again, at some point it, one, becomes repetitive, and two, it stops being interesting. So you kind of have to hack your psychology a little bit and learn something for a certain period of time and then kind of move on to the next thing. Now, if you're enjoying something, disregard this step completely. If you are enjoying learning about SQL and database systems and all that stuff, go for it. Learn as much as you want, but then, like I said, kind of be willing to shift a little bit and learn a little bit more about this database systems instead. That's what I'm saying. Don't completely disregard what you're learning. Okay, that's not what I'm pushing for you to do. Okay. All right. So the next thing that I have is to compare less and build more. This is so real in the society that we live in today. Comparison in all aspects is a thief of joy, especially when it comes to coding, because it's really easy to see 13-year-old got an internship at Facebook, or 16-year-old got an internship internship at Google, it's really easy to compare yourself to other people, especially like people that are your peers. You know, you might be learning next to somebody and they might be grasping concepts better than you, like object-oriented programming, you know, things like that. It can click easier for some people than others, and that's okay. But as long as you are continuously trying, as long as you're continuously, as long as you're staying disciplined with yourself, and as long as you are consistently putting in the work and, you know, sticking with the plan that you've made, that truly is more important than completely understanding the concepts, especially at the same time as somebody else. Now, you know, obviously it shouldn't take, you know, more than like 45 minutes to do a hello world prompt for a basic language, but overall you shouldn't compare yourself to others, because genuinely that will kind of tear you apart and it'll destroy your mental health, and it'll also just make you not want to code, and that's the last thing we need, you know what I mean? So yeah, focus on yourself, focus on the small wins that you make. If you create a new project, if you learn a new skill, learn some new syntax, that is the stuff that you should be focusing on 10 times more than other people and their accomplishments. You know, be proud for your fellow learners, but also like don't let that tear you apart. All right, so I just got back home, and the final few tips that I have for you is to practically reset when motivation is gone. This can kind of be seen in some of my other lessons and tips that I have about staying consistent with your habits, but the same thing kind of goes for everything. You need to spend a certain amount of time reflecting and resetting and making adjustments where they're needed. If you set out with the goal to code for 5 hours every single day, and then first week you simply don't hit that 5 hours, you might hit 2 hours every single day max, maybe you should look back, reflect, and be like, okay, maybe 5 hours is too over ambitious and I should instead reflect and reset, maybe aim for 2 to 3 hours every single week. And then you kind of make that adjustment. That way you don't, one, lose motivation, and that way you, two, don't mess up your personal mental health and your mental reflection in this whole situation. Because at the end of the day, if you see a goal that you're just consistently missing, you're not going to want to keep fighting for that goal. At some point, you're going to get burnt out and you're just going to feel like you're a failure. So save yourself the mental workload and reset. I personally do it bi-weekly, every 2 weeks, for my finances, my coding, my goals in life in general. Every 2 weeks, I like to sit down, reflect, see what worked, see what didn't. And that's just kind of the big tip that I have for you. Be practical with the goals that you're setting for yourself, essentially. All right, so I want to wrap this up by saying, if you don't quit, you win. That's pretty much how this works. By staying consistent with yourself, by staying disciplined with your goals, you are going to set yourself apart from the rest in this overpacked industry at the moment. Most people fail because they stop. You are not like most people. You are going to stay consistent with your goals with the tips that I mentioned in this video. Now, coding is one of the various habits that I have in my life. If you want my habit tracking template, comment brain in the comment section and I'll send you my Notion template for free, where you can implement your own habits and break down where you can track it every single month. I just want to encourage you to keep going one session at a time. You don't need to be perfect. You just need to be consistent. But anyways, thank you again so much for watching. I hope you have a great rest of your day. If you have any tips that I missed in this video, please comment them down below for everybody to join, for everybody to learn. I do have also a video teaching you like some of the best resources specifically for learning how to code, and I'll link that video around here. Please be sure to like and subscribe. Thank you again so much for watching, and I'll see you next time on Quartz Corner.